It's the Opperman Report.
Redmond here for Porkins Policy Radio, PorkinsPolicyReview.com. You are, of course, listening to the exclusive monthly bonus podcast here for Patreon subscribers. So thank you all so much for subscribing. Of course, you make it possible for me to produce this bonus for subscribing, especially people that have been subscribing recently. I know that money is tight for everybody. I'm certainly feeling it. I'm sure you're all feeling it. So I thank you, even if it's just that $1 a month. I know that right now with all this COVID stuff going on, every dollar helps out a lot, and it really does help me. So thank you all so much for subscribing. We are joined once again by very good friend of the show, Ed Opperman, of course, the host of the Opperman Report. You can find Ed's work by going to OppermanReport.com. You can find him on iTunes, on Spreaker, pretty much any podcasting platform. All the podcatchers have Ed's stuff. He's also on AM and FM radio. And I forget exactly. I know you're still on KYAH, right, Ed?
Yeah. In fact, I'm going to use my FM radio voice. Welcome, Pierce. Welcome to the show. Yeah, I'm on KYAH in Utah, KSHP in Nevada, KCAA in California, and WWPR down here in the Gulf Coast of Florida.
Excellent. So lots of radio stations.
Yeah. Coming to you from the KMD Law Studios. KMD Law.
And Ed, as always, you are putting out a phenomenal amount of, just a ton of material. I mean, you must be recording almost every day.
Yeah,
right?
I record every day. Every day. Yeah. I try to take Sundays off. I take my dad over to my sister's house for Sunday dinner. Is like my one little break in the week. There we get tiny little portions. It's like a Vietnamese prison camp. You go to, a little bowl of rice and some warm water, and I'm happy.
Right? Yeah, cold meat and we've got Ed on the bonus podcast this month, of course, to talk about a topic that Ed and I have been, I think it's fair to say, obsessed with for many years, and it's something that we've both focused a lot of our time on, and that is, of course, the Jeffrey Epstein saga, the scandal. Of course, Epstein is no longer with us right now, so we're going to be focusing a bit on, or not a bit, we're going to be focusing entirely on Ghislane Maxwell, who, of course, is now in custody here in Brooklyn, actually, out. I think it's right by Industry City, if anybody knows where that is, sort of out by Sunset Park, or near there, right on the water. Metropolitan Detention Center, right? MDC.
That's correct.
And Ed, we've obviously talked since then, but we haven't had you on the show to talk about since her arrest. I mean, what do you make? Just quickly, what do you make of Ghislane Maxwell's arrest up in New Hampshire at this very palatial mansion?
One thing I noticed right off the bat is she wasn't expecting that. There was no negotiations, pre-arrest negotiations, nothing like that. She wasn't ready for this. She didn't have attorneys ready, criminal attorneys ready to they shouldn't even have a bail application motion ready to go prepared. What was the other thing too? Is they shouldn't have an attorney. Yeah, she wasn't prepared for this whatsoever. She wasn't expecting it. So that's an interesting sign.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it seemed a bit sort of like the Epstein's arrest at Teterboro, just totally kind of like unaware, I mean, and I have to assume, I think we talked about this, that at the time Epstein, his lawyers had to know something was, or they could have known that something was going on, just given, I think it's fair in saying, it's easy to get information like that from, especially if there's like indictments and judges are being assigned to cases. You can get that information out if you're a lawyer. It's not necessarily legal, but it's certainly available. So it seemed like Epstein was just under the impression that nothing would happen. And it seems like that was the case with Maxwell up in New Hampshire. Obviously, since then, we've had some developments, specifically with the Maxwell case. I'm curious, Ed, were you able to did you listen in on the bail hearing?
No, I didn't. But you know what interesting, too, is I was just thinking about you'd think that she would have been on edge seeing that to the whole thing where Barr tried to fire Berman and install his own guy. And when that failed, you'd think she would have been on edge that, hey, am
I good?
Right, exactly. But she wasn't. She just didn't care. She doesn't seem to be aware.
I know. I can't. I can't understand that. And I listened to, I was able to call in to the bail hearing. I was actually, they extended the number of, I think originally it was only like maybe 500 people were on the call, and then they extended it to 1,000, and I was 999. They tell you when you call in to the court services. And it was weird to hear her speak at the beginning. But, after that, it's basically just her saying not guilty and that she's read the indictment. But, I found some of the arguments from her lawyers I found them to be a little bit persuasive. But the weird thing to me was, and now her lawyers harped on this throughout the hearing, that, she's not a flight risk because she never fled. What do you make of that, Ed? Obviously after the fact she's arrested, she could be a flight risk. And she's looking at a lot of time in prison, and presumably she thought she wasn't going to be facing any time. But what do you make of the fact that she never fled, even with all the other lawsuits going all the way back to 2016?
Well, it's very rare for someone to flee from a civil suit because they can just go after bank accounts, So doesn't impress me whatsoever. You don't flee from a civil suit. You don't show up. Maybe you get a default judgment. You don't have to flee. What she never had any previous criminal charges where she showed up on time for court, and you can point at that and say, hey, my client's, he's been in trouble before. He's always showed up. He's got family and he's got ties to the community. Mm-hmm. Does she have any of that? What she did was had a lawsuit down there in the Virgin Islands where she was trying to get her expenses paid for, and part of those expenses were from hiding out. They're hideout expenses, mm-hmm. So, I'm not impressed with that at all, that line of argument. By those guys weren't even criminal lawyers, by the way, at the bail hearing, right? At the arraignment?
I'm not sure. I know that she's added other lawyers since then. I haven't checked the docket, but I know that there are other lawyers that have been added. And obviously her longtime lawyer, I think it's what is it, Sigrid Macaulay? She wasn't speaking. I don't know if I get the sense that Macaulay, I think that's her name, is sort of like that's like Maxwell's Darren Indike. This is they're a lawyer and they're probably fairly good, but they're as crooked as they come. And, she's not the type of lawyer that's going to be, talking to a judge. It's funny, Ed, I think and this shows just like how little maybe I actually think I understand the law. I found some of the arguments that her lawyers gave were, it's like, oh yeah, I get it. I thought for a minute maybe she was going to get bail. But maybe I'm just so out of touch or so, it's funny. I think people were making a lot of assertions listening to this, or people were like, oh, how could they schedule a trial a year from now? This is unheard of. And that's fairly normal. Yeah,
especially something this magnitude. There's all these civil cases all over the place, that should be getting sealed now. I'm shocked to see that this Gouffre defamation lawsuit that the judge is actually unsealing files in that case Thursday, right? Tomorrow, right?
So tomorrow on the 30th, they're going to start. They should be on the docket. If people have Pacer, you can check. It's 1:15-CV 07433. So if you pull that up on Pacer, you'll see it, and I believe that the next couple dockets will be those files. That's an interesting point, Ed, and I haven't seen other people kind of hammering on that, but it is kind of crazy that they could because I mean that to me would just sort of if this ever does go to trial and there's a jury. Right. I mean, you're going to have to find somebody that never read this stuff or that, heard about this. I mean, because that's her deposition, and I believe even emails between her and Epstein.
Pierce, just think. She was just making motions, okay, at the last appearance, saying we should seal the witness, we should gag the witnesses and their associates in this case, in her criminal case.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And meanwhile, got this other judge which is so unheard of. A judge in a civil case is going to say, well, I'm going to release this while there's pending a criminal facing 40 years. Totally unheard of. And it almost seems like a gift to her, that she can point it at for an appeal. And say, look what they did to me. And kind of thing too right. That, by then it would be off the front, if she's in jail for a year, right? And then she does an appeal. Well, my jury was prejudiced against me. Okay, we're going to throw out these charges. And everyone's on to the next topic, the next judge getting shot or the next whodunit somewhere else.
Right. No, I know that's an excellent point. I mean, that would be, I don't know. That would be crazy. But it seems like it could be. Yeah, I don't understand. I mean, that's so funny too. Again, I think this is people's naivete when it comes to, the law and trials and stuff like that. But her Maxwell's motions to, like you said, to make sure that witnesses don't talk and stuff. I mean, I understand partly why she's saying that, because you do have a lot of all these witnesses, or many of them, they're on Twitter.
Yeah,
they're saying all sorts of things. I mean, I would be, that I don't know what you make of this, but I mean, I'm fascinated that like David Boies and others, even Brad Edwards, aren't telling their clients, you can't just go on any podcast, you can't just say whatever you want on Twitter. And I wonder if like some of the, some witnesses and victims, if they're not being, if they're not included in some of these lawsuits because of that.
I think at this point they've won so many cases, they've gotten so many settlements, and judgments against people probably that have never made the paper, so many times that anything now is just gravy. You know what I mean? Because they're throwing defamation suits around. These aren't necessary. You're not going to get a lot of money from that. But still, they're doing it. Because now it's just all gravy, and everybody's making a living writing books.
Yeah, I know exactly right. Have you read Edward's book or looked at it at all?
Nah.
Yeah. No, I haven't even watched the Netflix show.
I haven't watched Netflix either. Yeah. See, the thing is, the audience should know. Pierce was saying how we've been obsessed with this for all these years. But actually, no. In the beginning, it was just a fascinating story. It was an interesting story. And no one else was talking about it. I wanted people to know about it. It's not. But now, everybody. Forget it.
No, well, I mean, everyone's an expert. But, it's so funny. Still, though, I mean, outside of a few people in the mainstream media, I don't see a lot of people that are actually reporting on like what's coming out in the courts. That always seems to be avoided. Because there's some interesting stuff out there. I mean, obviously, a big thing that just came out very recently. I think this was yesterday or was reported on yesterday. This motion from Maxwell's lawyers to classify a bunch of stuff, in future docket reports or whatever as highly confidential, and they're referring to some sort of nude photos and videos. What do you make of that, Ed? I know that obviously got a lot of headlines, and people, it's very salacious. Are these videos? I don't know that they could or they would they post something like that? I mean, maybe if it was just of Maxwell, but if this is of a victim, I don't think they're going to post that publicly on Pacer.
No, they definitely wouldn't post it on a victim. It would be sealed if it was a victim. If it was Maxwell, they would get sure. Well, you should see some of the exhibits.
No, I know. I've had it.
Yeah. Well, one of the things we do is, when we're tracing the emails back to online dating sites and stuff like that, and you find a guy on altfetish.com and his picture's on it, and you post that picture. The guy's got a mask on in his underwear, part of the camera.
Yeah,
you know?
a diaper or something.
Yeah, you attach those pictures, man. That's what you're looking for. It's gold.
Right. Yeah, and but yeah, I mean, like I said, tomorrow, they will unseal these. I'll post them on my site. I mean, I think they're going to be interesting stuff. I do also think it's there's going to be, there's going to be stuff in there that's going to. I still think there's stuff in there that's going to make Jeffrey not look so great.
Right, because Dershowitz actually wants this stuff unsealed, and this is the same stuff that he's already given to the Jerusalem Post.
Right. No, and I mean, yeah, some of the stuff that was unsealed earlier, I mean, not to defend Dershowitz, but I mean, it does make his point that she never says that she actually engaged in, at least when she was speaking to that Daily Mail journalist, she says she never engaged in any sort of sexual relations with Dershowitz. And also, furthermore, as he points out in her unpublished manuscript, she says there that she never had sex with him.
Have you seen pictures of Virginia Roberts Giuffre at parties?
Just the ones that were like in the mail, like the one on that yacht for like Naomi Campbell's birthday.
Right.
Those are the only ones that I think I can sort of remember seeing.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I know I saw some recently. You're right. It's Naomi Campbell. Now, how old would she be in those pictures?
Well, I mean, I mean that's another thing that also sort of in some of those in those unsealing, she was not as young as she claimed the first time. I think she said she was maybe 16 or 15 going on 16 when in fact she might have actually been 17 going on 18.
But that's interesting because, if she was on Naomi, was Trump on that yacht with Naomi Campbell?
I don't think so. I mean, there's no pictures of that as far as I know. I think it was one of Naomi Campbell's like birthdays, like her, whatever, some big birthday. And I know that Jeffrey is like, she's talked about that in the past. I mean, she's definitely there.
Right.
There's no doubt about that.
And you would think that if she's at these parties, that one time she would have had to run into Trump, and he would have to recognize her. Hey, isn't that kid that works in the locker room over there? What is she doing here? Yeah.
Well, Ed, what do you make of Trump's? I just wish her well.
Well, some
Maxwell.
Pierce, some rapists are very fine people. We all know that. Right? Some of them are just very fine people. Well, good question. Again, we were just talking about this with Hoffenberg. The only other time he said that kind of thing was with Manafort and Stone. And I guess, Flynn too, if you have something you could say about Trump and you don't want him to say it, he doesn't want you to say it, then he says nice things about you.
Right.
Otherwise, what could possibly be his motivation for that?
No, exactly. I mean, yeah, exactly. Unless that's
why admit that he knows her? Say, she's a Clinton friend.
Right.
She went to Chelsea.
And the odd thing too, in that when he said that in the briefing room, he kept saying, "Oh, well, they lived in Palm Beach." Is he referring to Epstein and her?
Oh yeah.
I mean that was interesting too. God forbid he ever say his name or anything like that. And it's funny too. These people. There's some video of him several years ago saying, "Oh, the island was a cesspool. You should ask Andrew." I mean, he doesn't, and then cut to, "Oh, I just wish her well." I think that sort of sums up where he's at right now.
Well, keep in mind too that this is right around the same time as at her most recent hearing, where the prosecutor said, "Hey, this is all news to us that she wants this stuff sealed. We were just negotiating last night up until 6:00."
Right.
So she's in some kind of negotiations.
Right. Ed, quickly, you think what's your? This is total speculation, obviously, and feel free to not if you don't want to answer this. But I mean, what do you think is going to come out of this? Obviously, we're nowhere near really anything. I mean, the government has not submitted all of their evidence and discovery. We don't know what motions are going to follow. We still don't really even have a mugshot of Ghislane Maxwell. Just the artist's rendering. Although, I mean, I believe I heard her voice. If that's whatever that means, right? But what do you see? Do you see this as actually going forward? Do you think she's gonna? I suspect she's going to try to cut some sort of deal. I don't think she wants this to go to trial.
Stephen Hoffenberg, Epstein's former partner. Hoffenberg used to own the New York Post, and he owned Tower Financial, which was this shady financial collections business. It was a public company, and he brought in Epstein to help run that company at the behest of another supply guy. Hoffenberg knew Maxwell, he knew Epstein, and he sent me an email recently where he said, Maxwell inherited all her father, Robert Maxwell's, paperwork and files, and then she let Epstein take custody of them, and now he's dead. Right? Because you got to wonder if these two guys are blackmail artists, right? Well, where's the kill switch? Epstein's sitting there in prison. He killed himself, but how come the stuff isn't all being released? Release it all, right? So, and he thinks that she doesn't have access to that stuff that Epstein had, and she doesn't have any of it. And that now she's floundering. She doesn't have her socialite lifestyle with all her support of all her rich celebrity friends and stuff like that. And now she's in the worst, lowest position of her life, which MDC is a horrible jail.
Awful. That might even be worse than MCC.
Yeah. These places, until recently, didn't have air conditioning. I'm shocked to find out they installed air conditioning in these places.
They didn't have heating either.
Yeah.
There were people who were freezing to death in the winter at this prison. I mean, that prison is it's abominable.
Yeah, these are no joke. And they were built like what, 1920s?
Yeah, no. I mean, where she is, she's right on the water out in Brooklyn. I mean, it's not. Yeah, that was the other thing that surprised me too. I mean, the Bureau of Prisons is really taking care of COVID, and it's like, I don't think so.
Oh no,
they didn't have heat.
No, I just had a guest on my show talking about the Georgia's Department of Prisons. There's nothing going on for these prisons.
No, they don't care. I mean, they don't care when these guys have real illness. They need dialysis and things like that.
Yeah.
But back to that because that's an interesting point, and I heard I listened to your I think the last interview you did that you published with Hoffenberg. We'll link up to that as well, where you talk about this kill switch and stuff.
Yeah.
And that also just sort of leads me to believe, or to posit this, and you really kind of laid into it. It's just that she does not appear to be the criminal mastermind that many people in the alternative media and as well as in the mainstream media have sort of built her up to be. This whole question of the phone and tinfoil. There are people out there in the alternative media that are making money and off of pushing a narrative where she is this, clued in, super spy. Her sisters are all, in bed with the Silicon Valley moguls and technology stuff. And, I think it was Christine. One of her sisters, invented one of the first search engines, and she's all connected. Yet, as you pointed out to me a week ago or so, you could buy a Faraday bag, essentially, that could hold multiple phones.
Yeah, but not expensive at all. Like $35 the last time I looked. I got a couple of them. Paraben Corporation.com. Look it up and Google Paraben Faraday bag. And you can order one online, no questions asked. No one's going to bother you. Wonder why you need one, Very unusual. Who's ever, but even, you don't have I guess she's a spy. You don't have a lawyer with a PI can tell, say, hey, this is how you handle your communications from now on. You can kind of reduce surveillance on you. Hey, maybe you get 10 phones, and everybody calls on one number and then you call them back on a different number, each time. A lot of stuff, yeah.
Get a burner phone? I mean, is that not done anymore?
Well, I believe this was a burner phone, but you get a new one every day, and have someone, another number out there, an 800 number you can direct tweet to. There's a million things you could do.
Right. Well, that was so odd in their during the bail hearing. They went in. They talked about the fact that the tinfoil was there because her phone had been hacked. And I believe that might be the case. That when some of these documents in the Giuffre lawsuit were unsealed, her phone number and email was in there, and maybe her phone did get hacked. I mean, the big question then is who hacked it? Did they actually find anything? And even more bizarre is why didn't she just destroy the phone? Her lawyer said something about, well, it contained legal documents, so we couldn't get rid of it. But I don't even know what that means. Is that like photos or, what?
Well, emails going back and forth between lawyers and attorney client. But the thing is, too, is, if you know this kind of thing is coming, what you do is you go to the pawn shop and you buy 25 phones. Okay? Because now when they got to hire a team of digital forensic investigators to go
through every phone.
Right, and print out these giant reports, check every number, make them do their work, Like what's his name did? Stone.
Right, yeah, I know exactly. Yeah, that's
Cohen. They know what they're doing, but she doesn't. No one's advising her.
That's what's so odd about this. And then, like I said, I mean, it really does make me question whether she is the criminal mastermind that we're meant to believe, and why that narrative is continually pushed. I mean, especially the tinfoil thing, the phones, why she hadn't left, why she didn't have. I mean, the bail package that her lawyers came up with was sort of like, that's the best you could do.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't list anything. There's some property in the UK that they could take, but that wouldn't even be legal. And I mean, the stuff about her marriage to who knows who, very odd. But moving aside a little bit from Maxwell specifically, or maybe keeping in with the Maxwell thing, you and I were sort of chatting about this the other day on Skype, but what do you make of Laura Goldman, who has claimed to be a close friend and confidant of Maxwell? She's featured very prominently in the podcast, I think it's Devil in the Dark, which was produced by all these people that used to work at the National Enquirer. And she has certainly made the rounds on, she's on Good Morning Britain to talk about how Maxwell is the victim. What do you make of Laura Goldman?
Good question, because Hoffenberg was in constant contact with her. Today, obviously, she's not in daily contact with Maxwell. It always, and Hoffenberg did consider her to be a reliable source at one time. Now he's questioning. He doesn't know. Now, it always makes me suspicious when I see suddenly a bunch of news articles, especially tabloid type articles, suddenly doing a bunch of hit pieces on somebody, talking about 20-year-old convictions and arrests and stuff like that. Like dirt, like digging up dirt on someone from a long time ago. That's usually not because the newspaper said, hey, let's do an investigation into this woman. No, they were sent an envelope. Hey, here's dirt on this lady. Go to work, and trash her credibility, which in this situation, is common.
Well, you think that's what's going? You think someone's trying to trash Goldman's?
It's clearly someone. Several months, it could all happen at the same time. Several months ago, about 3 months ago, suddenly it was an avalanche of negative articles about her, talking about her past criminal activity, which is like 10, 15, 20 years ago. And by the way, too, we talked about this too as well. In 2017, she had White House press credentials.
Yeah,
okay?
Yeah, that's maybe the most bizarre part.
So she was and by the way, with no periodical attached to her, she was a freelancer, right? So she's in the Trump White House, in the same room where Trump is wishing well Maxwell, her friend. So how she, what is, I don't know.
And also, I mean, obviously, the stuff that she, I think she was convicted of a bunch of them. I mean, stalking and death threats and all this stuff. How she passed a, White House background check is beyond me. I don't know of many other journalists not attached to a publication, freelancers that get full access to the White House with, like federal charges of, stalking and death threats and stuff of like big name people too.
Well, also she threatened her probation officer. She threatened to kill her own probation officer.
Right.
Which is frowned upon.
And then she fled to France and then later to Israel. And she was labeled by the FBI as a fugitive. Very bizarre. Yeah, I mean, I never really trusted Goldman.
Pierce, let me tell you, some fugitives are very fine people. You can't paint everybody with a negative brush, Pierce. You know, very fine.
Yeah, no, exactly. Just all those guys at the Charlotte rally.
Yeah, the torches. Yeah, very fine torch holders in that crowd.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I think that's what's so interesting. You know, it's just the nuts that just sort of that's what, again, Goldman is supposed to be one of Maxwell's like best friends, and it's sort of like with people like that in your corner, it doesn't surprise me she wraps her phone in tinfoil,
right,
thinking that's going to do something. And then furthermore, it seems also that Goldman hired two of the biggest con artists operating right now in the public, Jack Berman and Jacob Wohl.
What that wasn't Goldman. You mean Maxwell hired the
Maxwell,
two?
Sorry, Maxwell has hired Jacob Wohl and Jack Berkman. Talk about this, Ed, because this one is and weirdly, you had all these people trying to debunk that oh no, that's not really true. I don't know what the reasoning was behind that. The Daily Beast was it's got Will Summer was no it's BS. Don't believe it. Can you break this down for the listeners?
Yes, because I've been living this thing 24 hours a day for the past few days. Now, here's the deal. This woman, Kristen Spielman, she's a model. She's a paralegal for a law firm in Maryland. And she was befriended. She was hired as a model from a modeling agency by Berkman and Wohl. And they said, we want you to be part of a reality TV show. You're going to get paid $300,000. Okay? And what it is going to be is it's going to be like Punk'd, but with politics. We're going to be punking politicians. And we want you, and then, so they gave her a script and stuff like that. Then she finds out what they wanted her to do was to claim that she sold Percocet to Nancy Pelosi.
Right.
And she says, whoa, I'm not doing that. And, she's a very nice lady. She talks about how they took her for lobster and wine. We went to,
they were always like ply her with vodka.
Right. And they send the limos over to pick her up. Which really interesting, how you would find an operative in such a way, but they seem to know what they're doing because they seem to have a lot of money because they're offering her tons of money. Then she was aware she has a year's. Okay, hold on, move away from that for a second. She's aware of many other plots these guys were coming up with, and plots that they have in the future too, by the way. And that they tried to claim that they had a woman who was raped by Fauci, that they had a woman who was raped by Mueller, a couple other stunts.
They tried to get Spielman to say she slept with Ted Cruz.
Right, and that he needed a penis pump. I forgot about that one.
Something,
right.
Yeah, and he was ugly, but she did it anyway, and it just is crazy. And we should keep this in mind that because I feel kind of bad for Spielman. I think she kind of, she's, people are just sort of, she's just some bimbo or whatever. But she is a paralegal. And a lot of her friends are lawyers. So when they presented her with an affidavit that they wrote, saying that she sold Percocet to Nancy Pelosi or slept with Cruz, she immediately said, no way, I'm not signing this.
Right, because they were trying to portray it was a reality TV show, but then suddenly they say, you can just go a week later and deny the whole thing, say it was just a joke. It was made up.
Yeah, I know. Right. That was one of the craziest, don't worry about it. And there's an article in Salon that's interesting you sent me, which is really interesting because the author of it turns out that his wife, who's also sort of kind of obsessed with Jacob Wohl's, train wreck career. It turns out that his wife is actually sort of like knows Spielman. They actually have a bunch of friends in common. But there's a weird part where Spielman says they said it was for performance art, so it's free speech, and that just reminded me of Alex Jones. He's an artist.
Well, not only that, it appears that Berkman and Wohl have a film crew around them too. A documentary film crew that they could have as a backup, saying, "Hey, this is all a big TV show. We're kidding. It's not a real affidavit." Who knows what they're thinking. But how this all? By the way, too, now I've spent a lot of time talking to Kristen Spielman. She's a very credible woman. I find her to be very credible. I find her to be honest and sincere. She's a good mother. Appears to be. So I don't think that she's in on a plot with these guys. Now, what came out recently is the Maxwell connection. Why me and Pierce are talking about this today is the Maxwell connection. Maxwell was arrested June 2nd. Or was it July 2nd?
July 2nd.
Okay, time flies. Okay. So she had, after that, she had been a witch. They told, okay, what happened? She was in the house and she saw these documents of a lobbying disclosure form that listed Granite Reality dated July 3rd. And she's, what's this? And he says, well, Ghislane Maxwell hired us to dig up dirt on the victims and also to lobby my good friend Bill Barr to fire the state SDNY prosecutor Berman, and to help out Maxwell. That's what they told her. So when she heard that one, she became incensed. She says, that's it. When it comes to pedophiles, I can overlook Nancy Pelosi taking Percocets. I can overlook the penis pump. But this is a bridge too far. And Kristen Spillman's walking out on his deal. Now, I believe, and now the question is, too, I have not checked to see if this document's actually been filed. Okay? Supposedly, the Daily Mail say they obtained it. They could have obtained it from Berkman and Wohl. We don't know if this thing's legitimately filed. Berkman and Wohl could have gotten the name Granite Reality. By the way, and it's misspelled, it's Granite Realty, but it uses the address of Granite Reality, which is the LLC that purchased the Maxwell Mansion hideout where she was arrested. But that name came out on the 2nd. Berkman could have, and Wohl could have heard this on the internet because it was out. I went back as far as I could find. It was in the middle of the night around 2:30 a.m. Our other friend, I'd rather not mention her name, published it around 2:30 a.m. So it was out there. So they could have said, hey, let's get in on the publicity and do another wacky-doo scam and call up the Daily Mail, because Kristen was contacted by the Daily Mail. They didn't contact her. And this story has all the appearances of a paid story, that someone got paid for this story. I talked to Kristen. She says, no, I was not paid for this story. Berkman and Wohl, a possibility. I'm laying out there. One is this is all real. And Maxwell hired Berkman and Wohl, dirty tricksters, to dig up dirt on the girls, the victims, and to try and lobby Barr successfully. By the way, they only paid $25,000. How do you wedge Barr on a $25,000 budget? I don't know. Maybe they got something on them. I don't know. Or maybe there's other funds coming from another source someplace. I don't know. But the two theories is they were legitimately hired. We did see that, and she says it was 6 weeks prior to that date, to the July arrest date, right? It was 6 weeks prior to that, which all kind of fits, Or Berkman and Wohl said, hey, look at this. We can say we were hired by Maxwell by this LLC. Well, we won't file this document. We'll call up the Daily Mail, show it to them, and have them contact Kristen and tell her, hey, we know all about this. We want to do a story with you. And she's pissed off enough at them that she actually did it. So those are the two possibilities. Either it really happened or Kristen's being tricked.
And you think that if taking the possibility that it didn't happen, you're saying that the reasoning for Wohl and Berkman to do this is because the Daily Mail is paying them.
They got a lot of money. According to Kristen, they got a lot of money, these two. Okay? And but what would the Daily Mail pay for a story like that? I would say maybe $10,000 tops. So I don't know, man.
And so that's the weird thing is that when the Daily Mail published this story, you had these people, this guy like Will Sommer at the Daily Beast saying it's all BS. He points to the whole Granite realty versus reality, even though the address is the same. But the thing that I don't understand, because Wohl and Berkman have not denied this,
right? And
they put out these statements basically saying, well, everybody deserves a fair trial, or deserves to be represented or defended. I mean, I don't know it's like you're not lawyers, you're lobbyists, and I don't even know that Wohl is a registered lobbyist. I know Berkman is.
Yeah, Berkman is a lawyer. He graduated law school. I don't think he practices law. He doesn't have a bar card, but
right. Oh yeah, right. But I don't know why. Like, I don't get what they're gonna get out of admitting to it. I mean, that almost, you know what I mean? Like, it just.
Maybe they're admitting to it because this is a public record. Okay, I haven't had time to go dig it up. But if this thing is filed, then what happened was they accepted a $25,000 check 4 weeks, or did I say 6 weeks prior to the arrest. They said, "Oh no, look at this! It's the same LLC that paid us the check. We got the check right here in our hand. We're in big trouble. We better run out in the morning because they filed it the next day before 5 o'clock. It was like 4:45. So they rushed out there to file this thing to cover their tracks, to say, hey, because maybe there's another check out there from Granite Reality that goes somewhere else, like maybe to a bar incorporated, you know, or
right. Or some bank in the Cayman Islands or something.
Right. So, you know.
No, yeah, I mean, yeah, I would not put it past Jacob Wohl or Jack Berman to be involved with somebody like. I mean, the funny thing is, this just reminds me of this, you know, wishing her well comment. It's like, you know, you've got all these right wingers, but none of them seem to be upset about Wohl or what he's doing. You know, his father is still attacking everybody on Twitter. You know, and it's like, well, your son is working for Maxwell.
I'm not aware of any of that.
Victims?
But, you know, I am aware of something. I got to tell you before I forget, is we just had hearings yesterday with Barr, right? And there were some questions asked about him firing Berman, but no one asked about this filing of this lobbyist thing, right? And I know for a fact that no one from Congress contacted Kristen.
Yeah, I mean, I can't make heads or tails of it. I don't understand. It seems to me that, like, if Wohl and Berkman are making it up, I mean, that's a big gamble to kind of, like, you know, hitch your wagon to a sinking ship like Maxwell. I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe again, I mean, you know, shady, you know, disreputable people like them, they don't really care.
Well, if they're presenting themselves, if they're putting themselves out there saying, hey, we're lobbyists and we have influence over Bill Barr, you can hire us and we can get prosecutors fired in your case. The next day, I know if I had a client, I'd be contacting them. But, you know,
right. Yeah.
You know, what's your price? Let's make a deal. What's my line?
Yeah. Where's the affidavit?
Yeah, Jeopardy. I'll buy a vowel with that 10K.
Yeah. I mean, no, that's true. I mean, that actually kind of seems like it would fit too, because I mean, so much of them are, you know, especially with Wohl, where it just seems like it's a total charade with him.
Why don't you tell the audience Wohl's background?
Well, I mean, aside from all of these other, you know, people that, you know, he sort of, you know, accused of, or put people up to, saying that they've, you know, having BDSM relationships with Elizabeth Warren. I mean, he's embroiled right now in a lawsuit, security fraud in California. I think it's something like $43,000 that he still owes. Or no, I'm sorry, that's down in Arizona.
Yeah, Arizona, yeah.
Yeah, in Arizona. So he's got his own, like, legal problems. He's also, I don't know if you've seen this, Ed, but right now he's like on one of these, like, sites that's like a, you know, it's sort of like a pay for porn site. Have you seen this?
No, and my head's about to explode. Why is he on a paper porn?
It's like one of the, I'm like not describing it well. It's like a you know, it's sort of like Patreon in that sense, you know, but you can pay and then you get like explicit photos of somebody.
Oh, like an OnlyFans site.
Like I think it might be OnlyFans.
Now, is he the one taking pictures of him? He's selling pictures of himself, or he's buying pictures? No, it's like pictures of him, supposedly. His father, David Wohl, also did like an erotic calendar for Trump. I'll try to find a picture. I remember. Yeah, because now Wohl is like super like kind of buff and like built. You know, he looks all kind of yoked up right now. I'll show you. I'm gonna send a picture to you on Skype as we talk. But yeah, supposedly he has an OnlyFans account. I don't think I need to see that. I love you, Pierce, but we got to draw the line here, my friend. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like he's been using steroids. Anyway,
you, for the first time in 7 years of broadcasting, I'm speechless. You got to see me, Pierce.
Yeah, and it's so fun, you know. And he was behind this idiotic, you know, the Ilhan Omar was marrying her brother, and
wait a second, these are the guys behind Seth Rich.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are the guys who started the whole thing, offering the first reward of Seth Rich And then with Mueller doing a whole press conference with the guy's zipper hanging down, he doesn't zip up his pants.
Right? Yeah, exactly. There's like a shirt wiener popping out.
Yeah.
No, I know. They tried to get some tried to get some guy to sign an affidavit saying that Pete Buttigieg raped him in a hotel.
Wait a minute, but how about in real life? In real life, not made up, but in real life, Berkman was shot in the butt. You know that story?
No, you mentioned that to me on Skype, but tell the story to the listeners.
Okay, and there was a guy who claimed that he had FBI files about Seth Rich, and he sold them to Berkman for $15,000. And it turned out to be all bogus. Berkman hired him because he was an ex-military. People think, ex-military is going to be a private investigator. I don't know where that comes from. They're peeling potatoes in the army and you're going to go become an investigator. But okay. So the guy takes him for a ride and gets $15,000 from Berkman. Oh, then the guy goes this whole elaborate thing where he creates fake accounts and he lures Berkman out to an underground parking lot and shoots him in the ass with a rifle. The guy went to prison for it.
That's insane. There's also some that I saw. You probably saw in that Salon article. There's Milo Yiannopoulos was threatening to kill his dog or something like that. Right. There's also that. I mean, that's a weird thing. There's a line in that article where Spielman, says that Berkman says, "Oh, my dog doesn't usually like people. It must be your Aryan blood." Which is just I don't know what to make of that one either.
Yeah, that Milo Yiannopoulos guy, which I hate even having to say his name. I can't even change his name. But the thing is, he's at this really bizarre thing called Twinks for Trump, where Geller was there too. That anti-Arab lady, Geller was there, and a couple others.
What's it? Geert Wilders from the Dutch politician?
Right. And they got some kind of weird homosexual pornography behind them, of the young boys.
It really and then Geert Wilders, I mean, who is just like, he is not that kind of guy. No, really, yeah. But again, and that's the it's like, and maybe that is just sort of, that is just illustrative of the type of people that Maxwell and Trump, there's a reason that they're friends. I mean, these are the sleaziest people out there, and they associate with the sleaziest people. It doesn't surprise me. There's also there is like a history of these sort of right-wing troll, fake journalist activists. Cernovich, obviously, was helping Dershowitz to discredit victims. There were other right wingers out there that
his whole career.
Sure, yeah. What's it? This guy John Francois Garipé, this like right wing, white supremacist guy. He took money from Epstein.
That's right. That YouTube to run that YouTube channel.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
And then was like, oh, I don't care. Whatever. And I mean, and he was embroiled in his own. Legal trouble where he was trying to, marry this developmentally challenged teenager. I think she, or she might have been older, but she was, had the mental capacity of like a 10-year-old, and he was trying to marry her.
I tell you, Pierce, there was a time I used to worry about skeletons coming out of my closet, but now I think it would do my career better.
I mean, nothing could be as bad as. I mean, again, I think that's just like the level of that these people are operating at.
Yeah.
I mean, you really, it's, these are not like, I don't know. I mean, there's something to be like. Barr seems like in another class.
Yeah,
what I mean.
Yeah, Barr. Like You watched that hearing yesterday, man. He's looking around the room saying, "Hey, man, I've killed more people than you."
Kill more people than you've had hot meals.
Right.
You look at Jacob Wohl, and it's like you're just a dipshit. I mean, you're just sort of lucky that you've fallen into all of this money. I mean, obviously somebody's funding him, or is funneling money to him. Because they've got limos and they're. I mean. Spielman says, I mean, who knows? I mean, anybody could write it, but they were waving around like a $150 check, $150,000 check. Excuse me.
Yeah, well, let's see what happens with that.
Yeah, exactly. Just strange stuff. And again, I think it's just it's funny. I think that's just sort of like when the more you kind of like dive into the muck of this, I got to be honest, the less I sort of see these like overarching grand conspiracies with with intelligence networks, and instead, I mean, it really just seems like kind of just like your run of the mill sleazebags, just people that you like. I mean, some of these people like Barr and those they're like I said, they're in a class totally separate. But Wohl, Stone, Maxwell, Goldman, all these people. I mean, they're just, I don't know. I don't see them as criminal masterminds, Ed.
Yeah, and especially this Twitter bunch, like you say, they get this big giant Twitter following, and now we see too how that stuff is all manufactured. And you can just put anybody up there and make a celebrity out of them.
Right.
If they get it right twice a week, everybody's happy with it, as long as it's titillating information. Like you were saying before, you wanted to talk about that Judge Salas.
Yeah. Let's just because this one is just so. There's this judge. I'm trying to pull up what her first name. And of course I can't find it right now. Her last name is Esther Salas. And this was I think this story happened like just before. I was like away for a week, and just like the day before I left, this judge, her son and husband are shot by what was described as a FedEx employee, or someone dressed as a FedEx employee. Her son dies. I think her husband is still in intensive care. Mm-hmm. She happened to be down in the basement, and I made mention of this on Twitter that. She had just been assigned this case where all these I think it was investors from Deutsche Bank were suing the bank for not disclosing a bunch of information, including their close relationship with Epstein. And I also, just to cover my own ass, I also pointed out that she's a federal judge. She sees a lot of cases, and it could be totally unrelated. Well, lo and behold, somebody does, they're law enforcement kind of reports on this guy, Roy Den Hollander, that he is the guy responsible for this. But, what does everybody pick up on? Oh, that he worked for, I think it was 1 year of his life for Kroll Associates in Russia. So that means he's some kind of, Mossad intelligence agent, and that it's a setup. And they just sort of completely ignore a lot of the facts. And Ed, just quickly, just talk about this. I don't think that Roy Den Hollander has anything to do with Epstein.
No, and even the lawsuit that Salas was overseeing was only tangentially involving Epstein. To begin with, it was a Deutsche Bank thing, So there's that. And also, too, one of her other cases that she ruled against was Joe Giudice from The Real Housewives. Yeah. And we've all seen Teresa. We've all watched that show. She flips that table. It could have been her, all right? That was my first suspect. That it was Teresa Giudice. Okay. And where was she that day? Do we know? But, okay. So, anyway, the internet, breaks a fuse. And this has to be connected to Epstein. And then they got pictures of Hillary Clinton with the FedEx uniform on, the whole thing. They're all ready for this, man. They jump on this stuff, man. They love it. And they even said a couple of times, I said, guys, man, every knee-jerk reaction can't be a connection to Epstein. We got to calm down. Who knows what this is? And it turns out they caught the guy. He shot himself in his car. He had the FedEx package addressed to Salas. And people say, well, that could still all be set up. It's Kroll. And by the way, the Kroll stuff appears to be his obsession with Russian brides and Russian dating sites and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
Because the guy was a wacko.
Well, and his ex-wife, who was Russian.
Right. And
who he despised.
He's convinced he's involved with the Russian mafia. But anyway, the guy's a wing nut, man, anti-feminist obsession. Read his website. The guy's a nut. But he had a case before this judge 5 years prior, and he wrote a book several years prior to this murder, ranting and raving about this judge. So I don't think, and then I guess you could say, well, they picked the judge who had a nut ready to go. Oh, that's possible. Right? Yeah, that's possible, but unlikely. You got a nut. It's usually the nut,
No, and it was just sort of like, certain people were just publishing articles on this before actually learning any information. if you go to his website, not just his like the one that people have linked to where it shows that he worked at Kroll. The whole website is insane. He's got like he tried to get his wife deported. He wrote this elaborately long book where he rants about how much he hates FedEx in it. Really? And he also admits to impersonating a FedEx employee on the phone to figure out where his ex-wife was. Not to mention that he had a case up with, that Salas was overseeing that he complained about. I mean, Ed, I'm not a detective or anything, but that to me seems like a clue. Does it not? If you were looking for a motive, if you were looking for a reason behind this.
Well, no, that's what he was recently diagnosed with end-stage cancer. Oh,
the other thing too, exactly. He was going to die.
Right.
It's.
There was another male rights attorney who was a competitor of his that was.
He might have killed him too.
The same MO.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, I mean, and here the thing that got me that was so funny is that this case. That he had in front of Judge Salas. It was this woman who was trying to register for the draft, and he was, and she got denied. So he was going through some whole thing about, it's just only men that suffer, and women should be drafted or whatever. He took on this case. Salas, was sort of, according to him, dragging her feet and wasn't, progressing. When he got the diagnosis that he was going to die of cancer, he ended up giving the case to another law firm. Well, guess what that law firm was, Ed? Boies Schiller.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That doesn't, there's nobody cares about that connection. And again, I don't think there's a connection there, but it's just sort of like,
it is a small world. It's a small world, and you got to take that into consideration.
But yeah, no, it's people are saying, what happened to Judge Salas is tragic, but we shouldn't overlook the fact that this just shows that the Epstein Maxwell nexus, they're willing to do anything to protect the truth. And it's like, no, the reality is that this total psycho destroyed this woman's life, and because he was just he hated her. And he was totally whacked out. And it's like, don't link this to something greater because it gets you clicks. I don't want to rant.
No, but you're right. Because just think, this woman did lose her son. Her husband's in intensive care. And she has to. People contacting her office. I'm sure these nuts. Calling over there trying to find out. Yeah. Oh, I need an interview. For my YouTube channel.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
My viewers must know the truth.
Right. No, totally
I can just see George Webb out in front of her house with his shaking hand.
I know, yeah, exactly.
I'm here.
And then pointing to those like stupid videos he does where it's what's the thing he's always talking about? Brownstone operations or something.
I haven't watched one of his videos in 4 years.
No, I know. I didn't even. I sort of forgot he existed.
You want to know what? No, he's being deplatformed. But you don't want to know what's interesting, because when George Webb first came on the scene, I used to get all these fake accounts on Facebook. They never emailed me before, never contacted me, never messaged me before. And suddenly I got 10 of them sending me these George Webb videos. Well, we got to make this one viral. And we see now we're getting a little more savvy. We see how this works, man, because that's the same way that they just promoted this with these COVID doctors, with the Freeman seed stuff,
Oh my God,
Same way, man, So at one time, they thought I was on their team. I guess they just Googled conspiracy and just got everybody.
No, that's the same thing. I mean, all these people that watch the Epstein stuff to just say that, oh, you're just some, Jewish shill, or you don't understand what's really going on, and it's all intelligence, and anytime I say something that it just sort of shows that these guys are also just sort of general criminals. It's like it doesn't always have to be a large overarching conspiracy, although I do think that the connections are there. It's you're obfuscating the truth or whatnot. Yeah,
and the theory is on the other side is we're running an adrenochrome farm and draining these kids for their adrenochrome and then selling it to the queen.
Yeah, I know, and then exactly, and then it's like, you've got Jacob Wohl, Laura Goldman, and tinfoil. Mm-hmm. It doesn't bode well for the case. But again, nobody's people are never gonna talk about those things because it doesn't comport with what they believe. Well, Ed, we covered pretty much everything I wanted to cover, but just quickly, because you brought it up, what do you make of this Cameroonian doctor in Houston talking about alien DNA and a vaccine to stop people from being religious?
Pierce, some alien doctors are very fine people, man. I'm surprised to find you so close-minded, but some of these people are very fine people, man. Okay.
No, I think that is that's
You want to know what? I glanced at that video and I saw the brand new crisp white lab coats that just came out of the packaging, and I said, "Are they even doctors?"
I know. Exactly. Right. The clean, no, nothing in the pockets. Yeah. Also, why are they dressed up like that?
Right.
Like it's like they need their costume on.
Right. It was very off-putting right away. I tell you, I got something good coming up on the Opperman report. I know you're going to love it. The guy's getting clearance from his attorneys, but this is a young boy who was raped by Roy Cohen, and he was when Roy Cohen took a trip across Europe, he was in every single city that Roy Cohen was in, and there's pictures, that coincide with Roy's, and he has a lawsuit going on and stuff like that. Very, very interesting story. I'm looking forward to reporting.
Can you say, is the lawsuit against? It wouldn't be against Cohen, obviously, because he's dead. But I think it's partially against the Cohen estate, but also there's all kinds of intelligence connections with this thing too, as well. Blackmail and things that were going on with this kid. Well, yeah, definitely. People should, of course, tune in. I saw you tweeted that. When would that interview be?
Well, like I said, he's still talking to the lawyers to find out if it has, but he's sure that we can do it. So coming up.
Excellent. Ed, quickly, anything else you want to plug? Any other upcoming shows, anything like that? And, of course, let everybody know where they can go to follow your work. Yeah,
people should keep an eye out. I'm going to be doing a weekly podcast with Stephen Hoffenberg, the former partner of Epstein and former owner of the New York Post. And we're going to do a weekly podcast on Patreon behind a paywall, so you have to subscribe to hear it. And he's got a lot of sources and connections in his story, so we should be getting a lot of firsthand people with firsthand involvement in all this. So there's that coming up. And then, OppermanReport.com is my members section. We have all kinds of documents and videos and stuff and exclusive interviews you won't find anywhere else. All kinds of great stuff in there, man. Exclusive stuff you won't find anywhere. And that's about it. And if you want to catch my archives, you go to Spreaker.com. You can find the Opperman Report. Got interviews with Pierce up there. Everybody loves Pierce, right? He's been on the show many times. Just did a Get Vocal video with me on video. Enjoyed that. Yeah.
That seems ages ago, Ed.
I know, man.
Right? It's like time is it's a whole new meaning. How are you doing? Are you safe and sound in down where you are?
Well, okay. Well, I tore my bicep, so I have one arm. I'm walking around with one arm, and I can't get surgery. We're trying to rig something where I can fly up to New York for a day, to Vegas for a day. I don't even know where I live anymore. Where we can fly up to Vegas for a day and get some surgery. My beautiful daughter is leaving for college in 2 weeks. I'm going to miss her so much. Going to have an empty house over here. Working on a ton of stuff, man. As always. Working on a million projects, lawsuits. One of my lawsuits fell through. The Disney lawsuit kind of fell through.
That sucks.
Yeah. I'm getting a pittance of what I thought we were going to get. But we're chugging along.
Excellent. Well, once again, the OppermanReport.com is where you can go to find Ed's work. We'll link up to all the places where you can go to support him and listen to his show. Ed, thank you so much for joining me on the bonus podcast.
Thank you, Pierce.
And thank you all so much for listening, and I'll be talking to you all very soon.